Hey there, Mercedes here from PrettyWebz.com, and today I want to show you how to make a very basic shaded brush inside of Procreate. This is a custom brush, but it's going to give you the basics on how to start creating 3D brushes. I do have a set of 3D brushes that are going to be coming out soon, and I'll leave a link down in the description of that so that you can kind of get an idea of the different things that you can do with, just starting with these basics and then making tweaks and adjustments to create something really different. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the new document. We're going to start this one with a square. So we'll just go with this 2048 by 2048 document here. And I'm going to change the color here to just a basic black. If you're on the disc, you'll just double tap right here to get to your basic black. And then I'm going to use any brush. Before I start though, I want to show you exactly what we're going to be creating. So this one right here, that very first one that I've highlighted, is the brush that I'm going to show you how to make. So let me just kind of give you an example of it. So I'm just going to scribble here just to give you an example of what that looks like. If you're, drawing lettering or something, you can kind of see how you're getting that shadow there at the bottom. So that's what we're going for. You can tweak this to lighten or darken the shadow, and I'll show you, a few little tips here and there. This is the basic. So I'm gonna come in here. Let me go ahead and get rid of that. And I'm on this layer right here, layer number 1. And I'm gonna come in and grab just a basic brush from inking. It's called Syrup. It doesn't even matter what brush you use. Honestly, I just use that all the time. So I'm coming into inking. I'm going to use Syrup. I have a black color, and I'm just going to draw a circle and then hold right there until you get this, where you're able to kind of move it around and then let go. From here, you're just going to grab that black and drag it over there just to fill it with that black color. And now I'm going to press a little arrow up there in the corner. That's just going to bring up all these anchors and things. So I'm going to move this up here, and I'm going to actually bring it down in size. I want it to be more circular, and I'm going to let that go. And then I'm going to come here to the layers, slide across to the left and click on duplicate. I'll grab that first one again, press that little arrow again, and then bring this one down. So they don't necessarily have to touch, and maybe I won't even make mine touch. This is going to be the shadow, and you can move it, like over here to the side or off to the other side. But for this one, just for simplicity, we'll just go ahead and leave it directly underneath. Make sure that you are on that shadow layer, and you can rename this layer, but really it's not necessary. We're just going to come to the little N right there and click on that. That's going to bring all of these options down, and we're going to leave it at normal, but we're going to bring our opacity down to like 5%. If you want a much lighter shadow, you're going to go down to maybe 3 or 2%. And if you want a much darker shadow, you can go up to maybe 8% or so. But, kind of stick between 1 and 10% on your opacity. And that's going to control the variation of the shadow. There's other things that you can do to control the strength of the shadow, but this is the easiest way to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that at 5%. And then I'm going to come here to adjustments, this little wand thing right there. And then I'm going to choose Gaussian blur. I'll choose layer. I'm still on that shadow layer, and I'm just going to drag across. I'll drag this to about 20%. And I know it looks like it's disappearing, but that is fine. So I'm just going to click on that to get away from it. Now I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to grab both of these layers. So I had this bottom layer selected, and then I just slide across that top layer to the right to select that as well. And I'm going to choose group, slide to the left and click duplicate. I'm going to turn that layer off, or that group off right there. And I'm working with my second group. The reason I kept that first group is just in case I want to make some changes or some tweaks to it. Maybe make the shadow from different directions, add a highlight to it. And I'll show you a little bit about highlights here in a minute as well. just to give you the general idea. But for now, we're gonna take this new group and I'm just gonna click on it anywhere and choose flatten. So that's gonna make it one layer. Now I'm going to click on it again to bring up this layer right here, and I'm going to choose invert. Everything just looks white, and that's what we want. So I'm going to click on the little arrow again just to select everything. I'm going to come to the wrench and make sure that you're right here on add under actions and choose copy. So I just copied that. Now we're going to get into creating the brush. So I'm going to turn that layer off and add a new layer there. I'm going to come to the brushes. And I'm actually going to go back into my test section here and add a new brush. So I'm going to press the little plus sign up there. This is going to create a brand new brush, just all default settings on this one. And I'm going to bring the spacing down to about, I'll try 5% and then we'll see how that works. So it stood at 6%. That's fine with me. It doesn't have to be exact. Next, I'm going to come here to streamline and I'll bring that up to about 75%. This is just preference right here. It's just how smooth the turns and things on the brush are going to be. Some people like it, some people don't. So I'm going to do about 75% for mine. And then I'm going to come here to shape and I'm going to click on edit up there at the top and then click on import and then paste. Remember we copied this a little bit earlier. So now we're just pasting it in here. So it looks like just a little circle there. Go ahead and click done. And you don't even see the shadow in this, which is fine. But you know, right here on the drawing pad, you can see it. Next, I'm going to come here to render and I'm going to choose uniform blending. I'm going to come here to the Apple Pencil and I'm just going to take down the opacity on that all the way. And I'll bring up the size here to about 50%. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to click on done. Let's go ahead and draw that letter B for brush again so you can see. Now you can make tweaks to this, like I said before, just by, when you create the shape, adjusting the opacity of the brush to make this lighter or darker. But if I come back in here and I'm going to go to render and I click on intense glaze, I'm going to click on done. And this is the very first one, so this is the second. You can see that that's a little bit darker. There's not much of a difference, but it is a noticeable difference there. So you can do that. You can go light glaze as well. And that's a very light shadow. That might not even show up on camera. It is there. I can see it on the iPad. But it's very, very faint shadow. So that's another option. For this one, I'm just going to go ahead and keep it at uniform blending. Another thing that you can do is come over here to the shape. And if you come down here, you can see how you can kind of squeeze it or, change the direction of it. So this is another way to change the direction of your shadow. So I'm just going to take mine to the top, click done. And now you can see that my shadow is coming out on the top there. Now, if you wanted this shadow closer together, mine is pretty far away from my lettering. That has to be done here. So I'm going to turn that off. That one is going to have to be done here with your actual shape. So that's why I kept this new group right here. So I'm at that first group that I created. I'm going to just slide left on it and click duplicate again. I'm going to turn that bottom one off. Now we have another set of circles to work with. So I'm going to open up that. I'm going to work with the shadow layer here. Click on that little arrow and I'm actually going to bring this up to about 1/3 of the way, just so I can bring my shadow a little bit closer to my actual brush. And then I'm going to come in and work with the brush itself. I'm just going to come here to the eraser tool. So I'm going to erase a portion of this, but I'm just going to come in here and choose a different brush. So I'll just come back to inking and I'll use that syrup brush again. And all I'm going to do is draw a line through this, and the opacity is way down. So bring that opacity back up. I'm just drawing a line through it. Now you can do this line in any way you want. You can do it across this way, but just experiment with this for sure to see how you want that line to look or how you want your highlight to look. But for this one, I'm just gonna do it simple and put a line straight across the top. Okay, so now I'm gonna come back to that group, click on it and click flatten. Now remember, we have to invert this so that it registers. So just tap on that layer and then choose invert. And then we're gonna come back here to the little arrow, back here to actions, make sure that you're on add, and then choose copy. Okay, now we're gonna come back into the brushes, and this is, I'm right here in test. This is just where I put all the stuff I'm working on, and I'm just gonna slide left here, click on duplicate, because I already have all of the settings I want. I just want to change the shape of it. So I'm gonna come here and go to shape, edit, import, and paste the one that I just created. So you can see it now it has that little line going through it. I'm going to click on done, and I might just take this back to where it was at 0 degrees and click done. And then I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to add a new layer here, and then I'll show you what that's going to look like. So you can see how I have that little shine there, and you can definitely adjust that to get a much deeper shine. Let me give you an example. So I'm going to draw that again just so you remember what that one looks like. And I have this one that I created. Okay, so I want to show you one more thing before I end this video, and it's just a simple tweak on this same thing. I'm going to go ahead and turn that layer off, and we're going to come back to that first group that we created, slide to the left, we're going to duplicate that again, and I'm going to turn that top one on. Okay, with this new group selected, I'm going to come here to the arrow. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit because I'm going to make another brush with this, but I'm going to need more space for it. So I'm going to just open that up, open up the layers of that group, and we're going to be working with the shadows. So what I'm going to do is make a triple shadow. So I'm going to just grab that shadow and kind of move it over here to the side. And then I'm going to come back into the layers. I'm going to swipe left and duplicate that shadow. So I'm going to grab that bottom shadow with the little arrow tool, kind of bring it out here. So I'm going to bring it out to about there. And then I'm going to come over here to the little N icon right there and take the opacity down to about 1%, maybe 2%. We'll go 2% on this. So right now what I have is, and it's very difficult to see on the screen, but what I have is a brush, and I have a dark shadow and a light shadow underneath it. So let's go ahead and tap on the new group there and then hit flatten. Now tap on it again and hit invert. You're gonna have this thing that you almost can't even see. We're gonna just click right here on that arrow so we can grab that, come back to the wrench, make sure you're on add right there, click copy. And then we're gonna go back to the brushes that we had just created. So I'm gonna come to the very first brush, swipe left, hit duplicate, and now I'm just gonna get in there, and I'm gonna go to the shape, go to edit, import, and paste. It's really tiny, done. But I wanna show you this, so you probably make this on a bigger canvas, but it's just easier for me to do it all right here just to give you the concept of it. That way you can go back and create this on your own. So I'm gonna hit done, and I'll go into a new layer here. Let me turn that one off. And right now it's just a really thin brush. Of course, you know, with the bigger canvas, you can make this a lot bigger. But what we're trying to do here is just get that double shadow in there. So if you did this with like a, I don't know, let's try it with a pink color. You see that you're getting those two pinks in there. So that's just another variation on the shadow. You can move the shadows in different locations and, you know, add the little shine to it, do a whole bunch of different things. Now, just one quick note, I am working in Procreate 5. So that's going to be a big factor on whether you're able to do this or not. Just make sure to update your Procreate app. It's free to do that, and you're going to have all of these options